Former Vice President Mike Pence spoke in Minneapolis today about what he calls the indoctrination of children. Pence was in a federal courtroom for a hearing on a case involving an Iowa school district and a group called Parents Defending Education. The lawsuit challenges a district policy regarding transgender and gender nonconforming students. That policy includes a confidentiality clause, which states students in 7th grade or above can request a gender support plan without their parents' permission. Support plans would allow students to work with the school to establish preferred pronouns or other accommodations. In his speech, Pence argued the policy and others like it are a violation of parental rights.
We believe in the right of every American to think, to speak, to live, to worship according to the dictates of their conscience, and that shouldn't stop at the door of their public school.
The DFL released the following statement prior to Pence's speech in Minneapolis. Party Chairman Ken Martin called Pence former President Donald Trump's most embarrassing lapdog. Martin says Pence's attacks on the LGBTQ community and Social Security will not help him in the 2024 presidential election. And while Pence has not officially launched a campaign for president, political experts expect him to, as so far only Trump and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley have announced a run.